Hi, welcome to Fearless and Flawed. I'm Serena Reynolds, CEO of Conceptive.
And my name is Sarah Ferrer, and I do digital marketing for Sarah Ferrer Co. And today we have with us Tiffany Chapman. Tiffany is a passionate portrait photographer who turned a beloved hobby into a thriving career spanning over 2 decades. With a focus on creating fun, memorable experiences, Tiffany strives to capture timeless portraits while building lasting connections with her clients. So, welcome, Tiffany, and thank you for joining us on Fearless and Flawed.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So you are we're excited to have you naturally, but you
Mm.
are the maybe the second photographer we've talked to in this slew of powerful women, but we find that everyone's journey is so different, so
Mhm.
dynamic, and it really breaks the idea that, oh, you have the same career, the path might be the same. So tell us about Tiffany's journey to photography. Were you born with a camera in your hand? How did we get here to Tiffany Chapman Photography?
No, I love that. Actually, you know, I think that the first thing that really occurred was that my husband bought me my first camera. And that was almost 17 years ago. And it was film. I had no idea how to develop film. So I just took it somewhere to get it developed. And it was really about me documenting my children and just exploring with, you know, maybe some creative side of me that I didn't really know about. I was working full time, raising two boys. Husband was working full time, and just kind of adjusting to a recent move. We had moved from Virginia to Massachusetts, so there was just trying to fill in the gaps of um, life, and just making sure you're um, feeling good and just staying passionate.
And was
Yeah.
this a hobby? When you say you had
Mm.
the camera was bought 17 years ago, was this like,
Yeah.
"Hey, here's the camera girl, go out and make that money?" Or was it just like, "Hey, let's have fun?" Were you a stay-at-home mom? Were you taking care of the kids? What did it look like day-to-day life?
Sure. So no, I worked full time. I was in the IT field, and it really was not even a hobby where I would just even think about. It was just I would say I saw something that the boys were doing, or my sister and I are very close, so she would have her children over that were close to my boys' ages, and just getting those particular moments and family pictures were really important to me back then.
So, how did you transition from IT to photography?
It's a little bit faceted. So I guess I'll dive down that little hole. So
Oh.
I started CrossFit. Okay. If you don't know what is a cult, and a good cult of fitness classes that involve weightlifting, flipping tires, burpees. There's all these really mental things that you have to accomplish. And I had some great friends. Like I literally had like 9 women in my arsenal that were like just always cheering me on. I did competitions, and meanwhile I was doing IT, but I always had a camera. And I started taking pictures at CrossFit, and one of my friends was like, "Hey, one of my teacher friends needs a second photographer for their wedding." And I just kind of panicked. I was like, "Oh, I've never photographed a wedding." They're like, "Well, you're not going to get paid for it." And I was like, "Oh, and I didn't expect to because had no experience, right?" So that weekend, I went out with two of my friends and their dog, and I took pictures everywhere I could just to kind of get myself, together, and looked up stuff on YouTube and stuff. So that's how I transitioned to, knowing that I had some kind of talent and that I could be a people person. So that first wedding, the couple really loved my pictures more than the first photographer. And I was like, it made me like, they reached out to me personally because they knew that I was new, just to say that.
That was like the first experience of Tiffany, the professional, quote unquote, photographer, right? What I'm hearing is like, hey, there's a little bit of nervousness, right? It's your first gig.
Mm.
When you're doing that, what is it, I guess, what is it doing for you? I always wonder, there's a technical thing of, snapping the photos, but what are you deriving from it? What are you getting out of it that you would say really drives it as a passion for something that you were dabbling in career-wise or professionally?
It's the memory creating. We as a society, as you know, are digital world. And I come from a family of artists. My grandmother, my uncle, my dad, my sister, all were painters. No one did photography though, so I thought that was always kind of odd. But I feel like that memory creating and being able to actually see those portraits again and again is so timeless and important for you to keep those memories alive when people decide to go on their other journey of life. And I feel like that also it comes from within. I don't think everyone could do it, to be honest. I probably had a little bit of imposter syndrome for sure. That's like because I was working full time. So for me, I'm super resourceful and I'll kind of just go down this particular path. I felt like I need to learn more about this. I really liked doing that wedding. How can I profit and also just learn? So I found someone local that was a wedding photographer. I typed a little Facebook Messenger post to her and message. I said, I really love that picture you posted of a bouquet, a wedding bouquet. I'm interested in learning more about what you do. And she goes, are you sure you want to be a wedding photographer? She tried to talk me out of it without even meeting her.
So you contacted a photographer, not for a course, but because you saw something they'd done and asked them to help you. I love that.
Yeah.
You hadn't stumbled across a course or a program that was already predefined.
No, no. Facebook back then, it was 10 years ago. It was, I don't want to say it was new, but it's exciting. Everyone was on it and like, there's a way to get to know people. And she literally met me for coffee and still tried to talk me out of it. And then we just clicked. And I'm telling you, she took some of my family pictures. I took some of hers. I did senior portraits with her. I knew she did weddings, right? So I was pretty bold. I was like, hey, I know you're doing a wedding this weekend, but do you think I could just tag along? You don't have to pay me. I did that for like 3 or 4 weddings and she put me to work. But it was that knowledge that I needed to soak up to kind of be that fly in the wall that really propelled me to like really want to pursue what I was doing.
Right, I have to say that's a real go-getter kind of attitude. I absolutely love that. It's so, I mean, a lot of us will look up a course, a program, we'll spend hours on YouTube, but to actually reach out and to say, look, I'll do it for nothing. I just want to learn. And my kids need to learn to do this.
Wow, that is super bold. And then what kind of came out of that? Like two things popped in my head while you're talking about this. One is you kept mentioning that you mentioned a couple times she said don't do it. So I'm curious, it's like dating. She's like, we shouldn't date, and then you're like, but we're gonna. And then what were the negatives or the things she was trying to talk you out of? And the second is in those 3 or 4 weddings you did in the beginning, as essentially kind of like an intern, if you will. In your experience, what was it like? What did you realize? What was your takeaway after and during those weddings professionally?
I'd really like to know. I won't ask how old you were, but how many years ago was it?
That was 10 years ago.
So you weren't in your 20s or
no. So good point. That's a really good point because she was 15 years younger than me. So she also was like, sure you want to do this? And that was one of the negative things. Like, weddings take a toll on your body. You have to deal with all the personalities. It's a one deal shot. Like if you screw it up, you can't redo a wedding day. All those things that are always like right here on your shoulder. And you're constantly stressed. You don't sit still. You might eat and drink some water, and you probably don't go to the bathroom at all. Those are all the things that like she kind of threw at me. I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. Um, and then, I'm sorry, your second part of your question, I'm completely
Yes.
blanking.
No, you should blink out because I realize I throw 10 questions at people and then I go, can you answer them? So let me retract all those crazy questions. The second one
Okay.
was, what the heck was it? It was, okay, despite all this, you do these
Yeah.
3 or 4 weddings. What's the
Oh,
feeling?
yeah.
Are you feeling like, holy shit, I'm going to quit my IT job. This is my calling. Are you thinking like, ooh, it's still very much a side gig. I have so much more to learn. Where are you at?
No, I wanted to go big. And I felt like because she was a small town photographer, and God bless her, I wanted to do more weddings and mansions and more elegant, classy, iconic. I grew up with antiques. My uncle was an antique dealer. He raised me up until I was 13 with my grandmother. And I always had that kind of eclectic style. And it comes through in almost all of my portraits, I would say. But, I will say I wanted to have more iconic, classy portraits. And she was really just kind of a shoot and burn a little bit. I hate to use that term, but I felt like she was just kind of stuck in her own little comfort zone, and I wanted to explore. And so, unfortunately, we kind of, broke up. It was a relationship. We broke up, went different ways, but I went and found that I really loved weddings and I love love. And I loved like just those moments of being able to capture someone's wedding day and that they can have for the rest of their lives, those memories through digital or prints or albums. So I decided to find a in-person course. Um, and I found someone out of Connecticut and they called it, walk through a wedding day. And they actually had models and they were amazing. It completely, I did a 360, like everything changed. I felt more confident. I got a logo. I had someone helping me with, my website, where to start, Lightroom and Photoshop, all the things. So everything, while I'm doing my IT job, I'm building this business on my side hustle. Yeah.
So I'm looking through your website. I've got it open here. And there's an essence of weddings. But that's not what you're really doing now, is it?
No. So thank you for pointing that out. So I will say up until 2020, I was hustling with weddings. I probably did 18 to 20 a year while working full time and also doing portraits, family portraits, senior sessions. And I got burnt out. And a lot of it had to do with age. I'm not that old, but I started to feel like, oh gosh, I'm having some health issues that are probably caused by this. And then in 2020, when the pandemic happened, all of this drama came in that no one was prepared for. And when I say drama, meaning the venues were canceling on my couples. The couples were using me as a therapist and not a photographer. They were asking for money back that they had already given me. It just started to just feel like all of that passion that I was had fallen in love with was stripped away in one season. And the people that stayed with me that year are still like amazing friends. The others that kind of went in different directions, meaning my wedding couples, they're gone out of my life. And I'm fine with that because I'm not going to be for everybody. But I also had to use this word pivot, in 2020 and, realize that like, oh, you know what? I'm really, really enjoying my portrait genre. And, I actually picked the portrait genre up in 2016. So that was only 2 years after I started wedding. that, and I can tell you the story of how that happened, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So another thing that I did to prepare myself as for a photographer was that I joined Facebook groups, and one of them was called Boston Speakeasy, and it's a photographer group. And I met with several photographers in person. I got mentored by a couple of them, and again, I'm exploring outside of my hometown. Right, I wanted to go big. And I love that group. You could almost write anything in there. We did like photographer shootouts where we would photograph each other. Oh, sorry to use that word shoot out, but photograph each other for free and have fun. There would be photographer meetings and meetups, and I would drive all the way to Boston to do that. And and I just started really exploring what others were doing and posting. And one particular wedding photographer was like, "Hey, I'm looking for an assistant. Come in for an all-day women empowerment portrait session." And I was like, "Ooh, what is that?" Um, and so she was out in Danvers, which is, quite a while from me. And we started very early in the morning and ended at night. And she did, I believe, 8 women, including myself. She photographed. They all had hair and makeup services. All were styled with jewelry and clothing. And she literally did it in her living room that she cleared out. And I still think back, it was so simple what she did, but so classy. And I got my own hair and makeup done because I was her assistant. That was my payment. And I'm gonna start crying.
We love a good tear on this podcast. Yes, let it out, girl.
Saw a picture that I loved of myself.
Mm.
And it was, how old was I? 48, I think, then.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like I have to do this for someone else.
Mm.
Sorry.
Mm.
And I did. I soaked up all that she told me. She was like, "Follow this person, Stu Bryce. Get this. I can sell you one. Start in your living room." I did. Find a studio to rent. I did. I did all the things, and I swallowed it and just loved it, and I felt like it just gave me so much joy to empower women through portraits because they are so self-conscious. We are, as I am a woman here, we are so self-conscious of everything in our lives, right? Our bodies, how we perform at work, how we are as a mother, a friend, a sister, all those things. So
But
sorry,
everyone
that
on
was,
the podcast, me and Sarah are nodding here like
Yes.
we're some kind of
Yes.
backseat dog
Like
toy.
he is our cult leader, and we're like, yes, leader, everything you're saying. It is so relatable. And and I don't want to cut off your thought. I just want to
no, it's okay.
sometimes it's inconvenient or uncomfortable to express that is deep down inside how many of us feel, right? But it's not the convenient thing to say is like, I may look okay, but I feel like shit, or I don't like how I look in that, or I'm going to position myself in a certain way to make myself hate what the outcome is less. And so thank you for being really honest about your own journey, because it's very rare that we're ever alone. The experience usually is shared. It's just who's willing to put it forward.
I personally can never find, I don't like photograph. I joked a few years ago that if something happened to me, my children wouldn't know who I was because there's no photos of me. I see them, I delete them, I move on, and
So that was one of my kind of, I would say, catchphrases is, what will your children find when you are gone of you?
lots of photos of them and my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think you should fly to Massachusetts and let me photograph you.
I think that's a fabulous idea because there's one thing on your website that like really grabbed me. I mean, your portraits are beautiful, okay, and I recommend people come and have a look. Tiffany Chapman photography.com. There you go. It will be on the website as well, on Fearless and Flawed website. But they're not, these women are not young. They're beautiful, and you've really like pulled out colors on them, and you're not just women, but all beautiful. You know, they're not models, but they all look as special as a model would. And you've got one line under your 50 plus and fab, which
Yes.
I absolutely love, and it's I see you. And that like gives me goosebumps, because that's just so lovely. That is just exactly, to get a photographer to get some photos done, that's where I'd want to go. This is you've hit it
Thank
right
you.
on the head, nail on the head.
I feel it's my superpower. Every woman has one, regardless if they admit it or not. My superpower is connection and making someone comfortable. I literally can do it in 30 minutes. I offer mini sessions for headshots, and people are like, I hate my picture taken. Why do these look good? I mean, I'm like patting myself on the back right now, but I feel like that is one of my strongest traits that I bring to my portrait genre. And that 50 and Fabulous project that we're speaking about, that was a passion project that I'm not going to get emotional about it, but it has been the most rewarding project I've ever kicked off. I've done a beauty model project. I've done a couple of 40 over 40 and Fabulous, or 40 and I think that's when it was. I can't remember. Sorry, but the women in that particular demographic, including myself, really are out underneath a rock and just don't want to feel good about themselves, because they are going through the menopause. They're going through maybe divorce. Maybe their children left their house and they have no idea what to do with themselves. Maybe they're changing careers, and they just need to be celebrated. I can't express it enough. And it's so difficult sometimes to explain that to a potential client until you're actually in my studio space, getting pampered with hair and makeup services, and just getting to know me, and like listening to music and just vibing with what I can give you. I want to bottle it up and just like sell it of it.
So what is the process? Well, if somebody was to come to you for their portrait, I mean, I really recommend people to come and have a look for portraits.
Thank you.
What's the process? What is it that you do? How does that day look like?
I will say first, it's an experience that you will not ever regret doing.
Is it a great gift for men to give to their wives?
Yes, most definitely. And that has happened several times. And I had one little red flag happen one time where the guy was like messaging me, and I was like, this sounds like a scam. Like the way he was typing it. And I was like kind of leery and like standing off a little bit from it. And he's like, no, don't worry. I'm a police officer, and I know that you're being cautious, and I appreciate you kind of, asking me several questions and wanting to meet in a public place so we can exchange money. Anyway, it turned out that was, oh God, that was the most beautiful project I did. She was actually one of the women in that project. So, for me, I asked for people to apply for this particular project. And I've done it for 2 years now. I'm wrapping it up now. But when they do that, we get on a consult call and we talk about what the experience will involve. And a lot of women don't know what to wear. I think the pandemic did not help things any. We're all in yoga pants and sweatshirts.
Go on, Sarah, do the leg lift.
Yeah. Before our call, I did a little leg lift over Zoom, and I was like, your girl's pajama pants on. I was about to say pawns. Look, I'm hanging around you too much, Serena. My pawns. I was literally, the more I hang around Serena, the more I feel like I am the queen here. Okay. But yes, I have on my pajama pants.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So I'll help. I love fashion. I love clothing. I love being able to help someone step into their comfort zone or out of their comfort zone. So in addition to the wardrobe and styling consultation that I give you, you have access to my studio clothing. So that was one of the things that my business manager poo-pooed me on, but I did it anyway. I bought a lot of gowns that you would never have in your closet, or if you did, you only wore it once. Um, and I have some, I would say like really sexy stuff, but you could make it look more professional. To have a good mix of sizes and styles. And I really invested a lot of money in that because I felt like not everyone had clothing to bring. And, I've kind of shifted from that. So we can talk about that another time about keeping your cost of goods down. Because that was a lesson learned. And I can't remember the last time I bought anything for the studio. Seriously, it's been a couple of years. So including that wardrobe and styling consultation, we do that through Zoom or in person, which is so fun because I bring them into my studio and they try on clothes. I'm like your best friend in a wardrobe room at, TJ Maxx or wherever, Marshalls or wherever you want to shop. And I will be brutally honest, nice. I'll be nice, but like that color washes you out. That sizing makes you look bigger than you are. Let's try to cinch things. I know that you want everything to be loose because you have the bumps that you don't like about yourself. I don't care. I got Photoshop. I'll pose you the way you want, and make you look really beautiful, more beautiful than you really are. And then after that, about 2 weeks later, we do your portrait session where you come in for professional hair and makeup. I have about 4 to 5 artists that I recycle through. And honestly, they don't make you not look like yourself. We're very conscious of what people like and what they don't like. And we're always asking right afterwards. Honesty's the best. We've only had it maybe 2 times in my 10 years that someone's been like, I don't like any of this. So that's not my artist or me, that's them, right? And then we go through the portrait session. And then afterwards about a week later, we do either a in-person or a Zoom consultation and we review your portraits together. And my biggest tagline is only buy what you love. There's no obligation to be stuck in a cookie cutter. But, we play music. If they want bubbly there, we can do that. I provide light snacks. It's really fun. Sometimes my artist will stay behind and we'll do behind the scenes. Yeah, it's cool. I love it. I thrive on it. So the 50 and Fabulous is one of those projects that I do that for. I also do that for personal branding. That can be for a small business. That can be for a larger business. And that's, really encompassed around your vision for your brand and how you want your brand to be seen. I'm Italian, so I talk with my hands. I'm sorry.
Never
I
be
do
sorry
too.
for expression. It sounds like while we're listening to this process, one, it sounds like a really well thought out process that the more you talk about it, the more, and I see Serena's head nodding yes, as well as mine, where it's like, yes, fashion and hair. And it feels like the best.
Me.
Well, yeah, the best type of girl time. You got like your bestie there to wanting the best for you. So it sounds like you have really figured out this process. But I know that we spoke about beginning of COVID is when, some things started to shift gears. So I just want to take it back because you're doing this full time now? I'm assuming
Yes.
you left the IT behind. Can you talk about,
Yeah.
leaving it behind, having this be full time? You have a great process, but you also mentioned like, hey, there are some things business wise, looking back, maybe I wouldn't have done so much. Talk through that. What are some of those like, I thought it was a good idea 5 years ago. Now I'm thinking
Yeah.
about it. Kind of a waste
Yeah.
of time or money.
Yeah. I went in with my heart. I didn't go in with my brain. Which is very typical in small businesses, right? We're not, and I think women too are really shy about asking for help. When it
Yeah.
comes to owning your own business, we get very intimidated by it and, oh, I can handle this. I can handle this. And I think for me back in 2020, we went through that pandemic and I got laid off from my IT job in March. And I'm sorry, I got put on furlough, as they call it. And I was like, oh, they'll bring me back. It's fine. It's fine. And then in July, they let me go after 19, almost 20 years of IT work at that particular company. And they laid off 1,100 people. So I didn't feel like I was like being targeted, but wow,
But
was that an ego?
ouch.
It was an ouch. My ego, I mean, I cried for a long time just because I never went to school for IT. I literally am a sponge. And I think that's why I've succeeded at photography, because when I like something, I am going to dive head first and learn all I can. Um, and that was why, I felt at that point, my boss's boss told me, I came out of this office, my husband was in the kitchen, and I go, they let me go. And he's like, now you can do your dream job. And I'm gonna be honest, ladies, he always thought my job, photography, was a hobby. I was making good money at the hobby. So for him to like be supportive all of a sudden, I was like, all right, I can do this. So I had his backing, and, I really needed the mentorship in my life to see where I could go with doing it full time. And so I latched on to a whole bunch of people in the same industry. Just in the last year, I got a business manager. I'm sorry, business coach. She's changed my life. I wish that I had her 5 years ago. Um, I wish that I had her 10 years ago, to be honest. I think.
What's her name? Don't gatekeep her. Tell
Oh,
us.
yeah.
Yes, we will.
Her,
Yes.
Hey,
yeah,
get her on a
yeah. So,
podcast.
yeah.
We'll have her.
Oh my God, she's amazing. Her name is Judy Casperson. She's out of West Hartford, Connecticut. She was one of my 15 fabulous clients. And we were she has literally been not just like she's all business, but she's also like very personal. And I needed that person. I didn't need someone who was going to be very regimented, but I needed someone who was going to give me tough love and really shift my mindset. It's not going to change in a year. That's the first step. Your mind is not going to change in a year after not doing well with handling my money, paying my taxes, my cost of goods, what makes sense to like invest in. Should you buy all the courses? Your equipment, are you investing in your equipment? Can you limp along a little bit longer? Because photography is not cheap. And it's technology. Technology doesn't last forever. So you're looking at between 3 and 5 years of replacing your equipment. You also get bored, and as a creative artist, you get bored. So I have started a new passion project.
Oh, here we go. Next shiny object.
So I'm doing boudoir. Are you ladies familiar with that?
I'm not.
You're not.
I'm not.
So there's a lot of different styles of boudoir, but boudoir is when women are, and it can be men now too, are in lingerie, and they're photographed in positions that I don't want to say it's pornographic. There's borderline.
Sexy.
There's borderline sexy. Thank you.
Okay.
But there's borderline photographers out there that kind of really push the edge, which is fine. But that's not for me. As you probably heard, I'm very art forward, or forward thinking for art. I love art. I want it to be iconic, tasteful, and classy.
Making people feel sexy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I saw so much of that, Serena, in the 15 Fabulous. Like, there were women that were wanting to put lingerie on, even though they came in with clothes. They wanted to feel sexy. And I was like, And I've done the boudoir genre on and off the last 10 years, but I really wanted to build my portfolio for it. So
That's not on your website yet.
Nope. So that means I'm building the portfolio right now. And I also was like, you know what? Don't stick yourself. I'm going to say this to any of the business owners out there. Don't stick yourself in a silo. Just because you're really good at one thing, keep exploring. Like, you might find that option B is really where you want to be, but you have to try it first. Like, don't be afraid to put your toe in the water.
I'm loving that. I have seen actually a couple of like boudoir shots here. I always find that like it pops up around like Valentine's Day as like kind of a like
Yeah.
what to get, like, hey, I've been married or dating for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, or even if it's like young new love, which is even more exciting, right? So do you find that that tends to be, if someone says, well, when would I do this? Does it tend to be more around like a birthday or a holiday? Or do you find that this is just, hey, I need a real boost. This is something I would, look into?
Before it was my brides that wanted to give an album to their future husband.
Cute.
Yeah.
Very cute.
So, and the other piece is I'm turning 30, I'm turning 40, I'm turning 50. I want to celebrate myself. I've seen people really come out of their comfort zone with this genre. I have a really great friend, Michelle Ashley. She's insanely talented boudoir photographer out of Worcester, Boston area. And, I've always been kind of, hesitant to try this genre. And she's been my biggest cheerleader because that's all she does. She is right into just doing that. And she was actually one of my mentors. I forgot to tell you that. So she helped me with my business growth. She took pictures of me, not boudoir.
Not yet. Not yet.
No,
Listen,
not yet. But
Why
she was a
not? Why
yeah, right. I know. She was a wedding photographer out of that Boston speakeasy,
Mhm.
and we connected. So I can't say enough about that particular group. It really changed my life and my business. It does help define your people in your community. And if a group isn't good for you, get out. Like, it's not serving you.
That's my motto in life. If it's not serving me, get out.
Mhm. Mhm.
would that be what you would kind of looking back on the journey? It sounds like, you're in it, you're reinventing yourself as a photographer, you're allowing yourself to explore, knowing where you are now and having an idea of kind of what the future may hold for Tiffany Chapman Photography. What would you say to Tiffany 10 years ago? No, excuse me, 17 years ago. She first got that camera and it was just like you said, a hobby. What would you say to her about this camera, this hobby, this potential career? What advice would you give her?
You can do anything.
Mm.
Don't doubt yourself. You're not a fraud.
Oof. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's really imposter syndrome's terrible. It's terrible. And I think creative artists have it more than most because we want to be perfectionists.
And when
But
people criticize, they're criticizing something that is from inside.
it's really funny though. I never thought of myself as an artist until I started feeling that confidence. So I will tell you that imposter syndrome goes hand in hand with being unconfident, right? So failure's not an option. You keep going. And that's one thing that I didn't have someone telling me that. I had mentors, but I always felt like because I was working IT as my full-time job, I was hiding my job, my photography from my job too. So that was challenging. That I hid that for I think 8 years. And I told my boss when I got let go, I was like, "Oh, well, I'll be fine. I have my own business." She was like, "What?"
Why did you hide it? Just out of curiosity. Was it like very like not cool to have like a side gig? Was the implications that you weren't doing your IT job thoroughly?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I worked with a lot of men, egotistical men.
I was going to ask you that.
Mm-hmm.
I come from
And
IT.
you do, yeah. And I went through a few really horrible bosses. The last boss I had, I almost told her one time because we were drinking wine and we were having a really good time and we were the same age and I loved her. But I was like, no, not going to do it. I'm not going to take this relationship. It's not her business. It's not interfering with my day-to-day work. But I'll be really honest, it was because I was doing like 8 hours on IT and 8 hours editing and photography. I was the weekend warrior for weddings. And then doing the portraits on the weekends, and the flexibility that I have now, is really great. I will say this year has been one of my harder years though um, for the economy, for people just kind of not coming forward for small business content creating seems to be a little less. And that's really where my 2020 to 23 years were. There were so many small businesses opening and they all needed to be seen. Yeah.
We all talk about the pandemic being a pivot point. Everyone we speak to, us ourselves, are exactly the same. It was a pivot point. But we were also, this is a strange word to use here. I mean, you got made redundant and you were in tears, but it led to your passion project and then your career. But for many of us, it wasn't the pandemic that was the problem. We were all kind of cushioned in the pandemic. There was furlough money, there was support, there was help. Everyone was going through it. It's now after. It's 5 years from 2020. We're about to hit 2025. All our economies are actually flatlining desperately. Small businesses are really suffering. Our governments are making strange and big moves to try and move stuff forward. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's now. It's now
True.
that we're really affected. Small businesses are really being impacted. It's feeding down the inflation in shops,
Yeah. Yeah. And that is so funny. I have a really great ambassador. I have many of them of my brand, which has really helped me. I will say that that's one word of advice I can give to someone. Find an ambassador of your brand. They will
Really?
sing you from their rooftops.
I have one. Her name's
Yeah.
Sarah.
We got a girl. Okay, I'm giving her the heart. I'm giving her the heart. That is true. I'm like, yes, girl, you can do it. Yeah. And I tell everyone about Serena. And then I'm like, girl, this is easy work. I love you. I think you're great. So the ambassador, this is just called, I love representing goodness. It goes two ways. People say,
Yeah.
thank you. You weren't lying. She's the real deal. And you say to me all the time, oh, you know, you're so good at just like letting people know I exist. Well, how can you keep in a box greatness? Like I want to be around greatness. And it sounds, Tiffany, like you've understood too that like, you know, being out there, you putting yourself out there to be with people you aspire to be, it doesn't hold anybody back. In fact, it allows people to go further together than they would alone, right?
And
Yes.
look, we're doing here.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
want to pay it forward.
Right.
I love that. I love that. And just to touch base on that economy, I'm in so many photography groups and, some serve me and some don't, but all across the board, especially photographers are hurting. I don't want to say it's AI. I say it's just the economy in general. And I also someone could just be like, you're lying, Tiff. I've had an amazing year. Well, okay. But every state's different. Every population, where we are is different, and what their median, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The median is different in every place I am. I actually was told that my household median was more than where my mentor, who's making like $500,000, then, what I mean? So she's like, if I can do it in a median that's only 50,000 a year and you're at 80,000 a year, and I'm making happen. So there's kind of that, what do they call that? Smoke and mirrors kind of thing. You're like, yeah, sure. I don't believe you. But then I implemented some of what she's told me. And it's really worked. So you just, like I told you, you got to stick your toe in to see if it's going to work. And if it doesn't, so be it, move on. And with that being said, the economy has pushed me to actually try to find a supplemental income. And just for a safety net, really. I mean, think about it. From the age of 18, had a steady paycheck. I don't have any small business owners in my family. I had no idea what to do. So I didn't have a savings. I used all my furlough money. I got unemployment at one point. And I'm like, I'm 56. 56, okay? I don't have a retirement. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. So I know from my business coach and her just pushing me, maybe Tiff, you need to flip flop. Maybe you need to go back to a full-time job, get that steady paycheck, and still do your photography. Don't quit that. But now that it's a smooth sailing ship, you can do a lot more with what you've got. You can up your prices maybe. Maybe you can be a little more selective about who you're choosing to photograph. But that supplemental income will fuel my retirement. It'll pay down some debt. Maybe I can pay off the house. So I'm in this like weird transition time right now, ladies. I know you want to talk to me about my photography and all that, but I also think it's important for people to know that like I'm transitioning into a different journey, I think, in the next year.
Yeah,
love
no,
that.
absolutely. This is exactly what we want to talk about. The transition from chrysalis to butterfly. Absolutely. I'm transitioning, Sarah's transitioning.
Yeah.
We're going through this journey as well. I mean, the fact that I'm talking on a podcast is absolutely hilarious. If you know me, it's
Right.
not. I'm not a front person at all. I said it 1,000 times. I like to be behind the people, not to be the people. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do.
I love
That's the thing. It's like there's all these balls in the air, and I'm like, which one's gonna land right here?
Okay, so boudoir photographer. What else is in that bag of tricks?
I'm dabbling with the thought because two people have reached out to me to do a little one-on-one mentoring. Because I feel I can't express enough. If someone had asked me, what's the one thing that you can recommend to someone who's just starting out? And I would say, find yourself a mentor. And don't have just one. Keep transitioning to other ones because everyone's going to give you a little bit of, it's like a puzzle piece, right? And I probably have 10 under my belt at one point, you know, everyone's going to give you like, it's either going to be about self-confidence, self-esteem, how wonderful, you are as all those things, but also the business side, like the tech side, like, oh my God, I don't know how to do that in Photoshop. Can you help me? Oh, you found an editor that can do all your retouching? Let me know. That's one thing I transitioned out. I love it. And it's delegation, making sure that what isn't, again, serving you, delegate out because that was absorbing my brain. Like I would spend hours editing and I couldn't do it all. Like as a small business owner, sole entrepreneur, you are wearing the marketing hat, the accounting hat, the editing hat, the personality hat, the, cost, all those things. So I think that it's really important for you to have that mentorship under your belt. I know that's not answering your question, Serena.
Well, these are you're giving us more than answers. You're giving us gems. Like you realize too, like even when you mentioned earlier about, oh, it doesn't really relate to business. Of course it relates to business. This is how can we separate? I think there's a fallacy. Who we are professionally can be vastly different than who we are personally. And I would even go further and to say if that's the expectation someone has, then you're going to be really disappointed that you can't leave home problems or business problems at the door. I mean, we have to learn how to manage them, right? But part of what makes you so unique is that you have a real experience. You looked at a photo and said, it's the first time I felt beautiful. So know how it feels on the opposite end of the camera, right? Like, Serena, I really celebrate talking about those human moments as opposed to talking to, business women who go, well, I have it all figured out. Well, if you have it all figured out, you're going to be a really shit conversation.
I don't have it figured out. And I stepped away from weddings and I do intimate weddings only now. I've become the headshot queen. Supposedly when you type in headshots near me, I
Well, the
am
good
top
thing
on the
is
list.
everyone
Yeah.
going redundant needs a new headshot. But
It's
it's
true.
in.
It's true. It's a good,
Okay.
like,
Good
it's a
niche.
secure niche. Thank you. Security blanket. But again, like I love the personal branding. I love maternity. I do maternity. I do families. This year I explored doing a little bit of mini sessions for families, and I cringed because I I realized, I'll be really transparent. I realized the money that I made on those minis and all the time I invested, I could have done that in a 4-hour shoot
Yep.
completely. So sometimes, like I said, you have to learn those lessons a little harder to just move forward and grow more.
Totally.
So
And there's nothing wrong with it. I love it when it's
Mhm.
like, how do you know until you know? Like,
Yes.
and people, when you're passionate, sometimes the passion don't pay the bills. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I need passion and to still make it make sense in my, in my P&L, in my checkbook, if you will.
Yeah.
So thank
Yes.
you for being transparent. And
Yeah.
as I know that we're kind of nearing somewhat of the end of this beautiful story, but I don't want to forget a little tradition we have on this podcast of we always ask the interviewee before you. We always ask for a question that they can ask to the next guest. And we always try to say, hey, it doesn't have to be super like deep, but just anything. And Ashley Mason was our last interviewee, and she had a great question for you. And it was, what are you reading? What book are you reading? She's an avid book reader. She wants,
Oh, me
yeah,
too.
okay. What? Let us know.
Um, it's by Kristen Hanna. It's called Summer House. Kristen Hanna wrote recently The Women, which was
Mm.
really, really good. It was based on a true story. Well, it's fiction. About Vietnam nurses, ER nurses, and in the actual in the tent doing surgeries, helping with all the surgeons. Insane book. Like I highly recommend that book. It was such a good read. But I love Kristen Hanna. It's called The Summer House. I just did that one. The other one that I just want to say, The Housemaid is insane. I can't remember who that's written by, but I'm an avid like I read 2 books. I just went to Florida this past weekend and I read 2 books in 2 days.
That's great. These sound
That's
awesome.
Yeah, and that's what really that gets the noise out of my head. I need to sometimes just get off of social media, get off my website, get off email, and just absorb myself into some book that's gonna take me somewhere else.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great recommendations. I mean, it
Thank
sounds
you.
like I'm always intrigued by what like creatives are reading, right? Because I find that like you probably have a very active brain. So usually whenever I've been recommended a book by a creative, I am not disappointed. It's like, yes, this is good. This is visual. There's twists and turns.
Yeah.
Now and then I get recommended a book by someone who's a bit more, straight edge, if you will, non-creative. And I'm like, I don't need another book about the psychology of people. Okay.
I have
My book, Sarah. I recommend
yes.
Serena, you've recommended your books to me 1,000, and I know that's your logical brain. Give me more of the creative brain, girl. Transport me to,
I use the creative day all day long.
No, I need an actual book. I can't listen to audio because my brain will just be like,
the feel of it, the texture of it. So those are great recommendations. Thank you. I have written those down. I'm reading Before Women Had Wings right now, which is it was like an Oprah favorite, like, I don't know, 15 years ago. So I'm just catching up to like Oprah's favorites. I'm like 15 years behind, but I'll make it there. But what do you want to ask? What question do you have for our next guest? What question does Tiffany Chapman want to throw out there? It can be as simple as what are you reading to as deep as you want to get. This is the only question we don't tell our guests beforehand because we like the spontaneity, if you will.
Oh, If you could go back in time and change one thing about you or your path, what would it be?
Change one. Thank you. We have to write this down because Serena and I have a
Mhm.
beautiful habit of being so engaged that in the next interview, we're like, anyways, and then we're like, oh crap, like, do you remember what it was? And then we don't. And then for 2 minutes, Serena and I do our little cute thing of like, oh, this is what happens when you get really engaged. Okay, so I love that question. If you could go back into time, and change one thing
Yeah.
about your business
Your
or maybe
path.
whatever
Your path, personal or business, yeah. Yeah.
personal or path, what would it be?
But that question can take you on so many different trajectories, right?
Absolutely love that. And Tiffany, it's been really a pleasure. Understanding your story, for me, I'm always really in awe when I hear about true creatives talk about managing and wearing all the business hats. And it seems from the outside, um, like let me take it back. It doesn't seem you are doing it. You're you're doing it and you continue to reinvent yourself.
Thank you. I'm absolutely flattered that I got asked to do this, and being able to maybe help the next person along will be that much rewarding. You know what I mean? Everybody needs somebody.
Mm, it is true. You can walk alone, but you won't go far.
No. Ooh, I like that. Yes.
Mhm. And you had mentioned a little bit earlier, which I again want to pull to the forward that a lot of women in particular say, I can figure that out by myself. I can do
Mm,
that myself. And from what
yeah.
you had said, I had received it as, I understood it as it's not that I don't need the help. It's I'm scared to ask for the help or I
Mhm.
feel like I should figure it out. That's very different than I think I have it all together. I don't need your help.
Or I'm scared of showing my flaws.
Mm.
I'm scared of how I will be perceived if I'm not
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the IT. Like I had told you why I hit it.
And here we are, Fearless and Flawed. When Serena came up with the name, Fearless and Flawed, we discussed it a lot. It kind of circled back to tell us about the shit you've got done, the amazing career and life experiences, but like tell us the flaws too, because we learn better when we can connect. And I don't know about you, but most women I talk to, myself included, um, I don't learn from just hearing about all the bright and shiny things. I learn from when you say, hey, something I did when I was tired, cranky, not thinking straight. And usually I go, oh, yeah, that's exactly how I behave when I'm tired, cranky, and not thinking straight. So it's a journey essentially for everybody. Being open and transparent is I believe the gift that we try to kind of put out there on Fearless and Flawed.
You got I immediately got emotional.
Yeah.
Well, that I am called sensitive.
Mm.
That's
What?
my husband's little name. That's who I am. I'm not going to
Yes.
change. And I think it just speaks volumes sometimes because I'll cry right along with my clients if they see their picture and they cry, which has happened a lot because they're so happy, they've never seen themselves like that before. I mean, it just honestly, it's like another piece of my heart is just like exploding. You know, yeah,
So you can give that gift to other women. I love that, and that's
yeah.
absolutely magical.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a gift. You're right. I thank you for using that word. That's one thing I don't use a lot, but yes.
It comes easy to you. That's what a gift is. Like, doesn't mean you don't have to work on it or doesn't mean you don't have to, consistently want to continue improving it. But when something just kind of fundamentally comes to you and you have it, but through the journey, we've also seen you've worked on it. That's like the best of both worlds, right? Like something comes easily, but like I also need to like really not even get your feet wet. You dove right in. You
Yeah.
dove you head first. Like
Yes.
I like
She
this.
had a full-time job, and
I
then she
did.
went and interned
Yes.
off her own time
Yes.
Yes.
for
Yeah.
nothing. Come on, that's
Yeah. I did a lot of different things for nothing. But because sometimes you have to start there. You want to be humble, have to be humble and just accept the journey.
So I think me and Sarah both need to go and get some ice packs for our necks because we have literally sat here the whole of this conversation and nodded, agreed passionately to everything. I'm not wanted to interrupt.
I talk a lot when I'm nervous, so I'm sorry if I overspoke, but
No, wait, hold on. Let's rewind. Apologize for telling your fabulous story literally on a podcast. It makes our life easier. B, we love to be super fans of powerful women who are getting stuff done. And C, I think it makes for a greater story. So this has been, I mean, your energy is so, even when we met for a pre-chat, because we meet all of our guests for a little bit beforehand to really intro ourselves. Serena and I have been mentioning you, especially the 50 and Fab. It has been brought up like, gosh, Tiffany is like, she really gets it. And if anyone
see you.
they see you, we love that. And here's the beautiful thing, we don't gatekeep it. So like Tiffany has a fabulous website. We have everything on our website, her bio, tiffanychapmanphotography.com. Tiffany, let us know, is there any Facebook, social media, anything you want to shout out to get, people to check you out more besides the website?
I am on Instagram. So it's Tiff Chapman Photo on Instagram. And I am on there. That's my portrait genre. I also have a wedding genre. It's Tiff Chapman Weddings. And those are all my intimate weddings. I only take 5 a year. So I've really scaled down. And, the weddings that I am getting are people that I know. So it's kind of cool. But that's it. I do have Facebook. I do have Instagram. I have LinkedIn too. I'm out there. And I advertise a lot on LinkedIn too, because obviously I'm the headshot queen. And I really want to continue that genre because everyone needs a good headshot.
They do.
Yes. It's so important. I've been really striving to get people out there to understand that, because if you're being looked at for a potential job or whatever, the selfie is not going to work.
Yeah, the car selfie. Let's dive deeper.
The car
selfie with seat belt on.
The car has the best light though. Sometimes it's that 360 light. It's just like, oh my God, I don't even need a filter.
Let me tell you, we do this on Fridays and there's a good reason why. I just want to cartwheel down the streets of Madrid right now, shouting out, stop taking your goddamn selfies. And B, Headshot Queen is in Boston. Go find her, get your headshot done, look like a pro and feel great.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Plug.
But Serena, did I miss anything before we wrap on up? Did I miss
I don't think so.
I don't think I did either.
I need to book my tickets to Boston. I need some headshot.
Make a point, put it on your wish list.
Tiffany, thank you again. This has been
wonderful.
Thank you. And we just hope that all the best of luck with your endeavors, and we'll be in touch. Hopefully, when we do eventually in the future, we'd love to kind of do a check-in.
Okay.
We hope that the boudoir shoots are thriving and everything else that was kind of in your bag of tricks is coming to fruition. So thank you.
No, thank you, Serena, Sarah. I love this. This was such a pleasure.